All right, today we're going to dive into a really beautiful and honestly timeless poem by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. It's called Dui Pakhi, which means two birds. And it tells a seemingly simple story that ends up asking some incredibly deep questions about life, about love, and what it really means to be free.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, the central question of the entire poem. It's something that feels just as relevant now as it did when Tagore first wrote it. Do we have to choose between comfort and freedom? That's the dilemma right there at the very core of this story.
So the poem introduces us to two birds who are living in completely opposite worlds. You've got one who spends all its days inside this beautiful gilded cage, and then you have the other who just soars totally wild and free out in the forest. I mean, their lives could not be more different, but as you can probably guess, their paths are about to cross. Okay, so first, let's really get into the world of the caged bird. At a glance, it's a life that, a lot of people might even envy. But as we're about to see, it's a world that has some pretty serious hidden costs. This bird is living a life of what seems like pure luxury. It's got a gorgeous cage, it eats the finest food, it has every single material comfort you can imagine, and it's completely safe from any and all danger. But, and this is a huge but, there's one glaring thing missing: freedom. It can't fly. And for all its comforts, it spends its days just yearning for that world it can only see through the bars. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the life of the free bird. This is an existence that isn't defined by what it has, but by what it can do. The free bird is pretty much the master of its own destiny. It flies wherever it wants, whenever it wants. There are no bonds, no restrictions holding it back. The whole world is its home. But all of that absolute freedom, it comes with a price, a really profound sense of solitude. With no one to share that endless world with, it can get pretty lonely out there. And then, one day, it happens. These two birds, from these two completely different worlds, they meet. They see each other, and despite everything, they feel a connection. And they start to think that maybe, just maybe, they could actually be companions. So the caged bird offers an invitation, and it's an invitation that comes from its own reality. For this bird, the highest value, the best thing in the world, is safety. So it offers the greatest gift it knows, a safe home protected from everything. It's a gesture of love, for sure, but it's a love that's defined by four walls, or, well, golden bars. The free bird's invitation is, of course, the total opposite. The most precious thing it has is its freedom, the experience of the world. So it offers to share the endless sky, the adventure of seeing everything. This is also an act of love, absolutely, but it's a love defined by boundless liberty. And here is where we see the fundamental problem, right? The cage offers security, safety, and comfort, but it comes with this underlying emptiness. The sky offers freedom, adventure, and experience, but it comes with the risk of loneliness. You're looking at two completely incompatible ways of seeing the world. So we end up at this really tragic standoff. The free bird can't bring itself to enter the cage. The very idea of being imprisoned is terrifying. But here's the even sadder part. The caged bird can't leave. It's been confined for so long that it has actually forgotten how to fly. The instinct is gone. Because they can't bridge that massive gap between their worlds, the two birds are left with only one thing they can do. They just look at each other, one from inside the bars, one from the open air, and they share a sad farewell. And this all leads us to the powerful, central message of Tagore's poem. What he's suggesting is that bondage and freedom, well, they just can't coexist. Even with love, even with the best intentions, you can't build a real connection when one person is captive and the other is free. Their situations just make a shared life totally impossible. So, what are the big takeaways from this beautiful, heartbreaking story? Well, first, the worlds of the cage and the sky, they just can't be merged into one. Second, the idea that real love needs a shared foundation, a shared sense of freedom. And finally, maybe the poem's most powerful point, that true happiness isn't found in comfort, but in liberty. And that leaves us with one final question. It's a question for any of us who might feel like we're in a cage of our own, whether that's a comfortable job, a safe but unfulfilling routine, or a familiar relationship. If the door to your cage was suddenly swung wide open, would you have the courage to fly away? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.